7 Eastern, then Kyrie, KD, and the Nets take on the Celtics. Over on ESPN at 10:30, the Suns hosting the Lakers. All right, guys, we are just 4 days away from the start of the NBA season. And you know what that means. The Jump's previously on segments are back. This is like when your favorite TV show returns from hiatus. We're going to catch you up on everything that happened since the last time you saw them. So now it is time for Previously on the Brooklyn Nets.
I know my post-ups are negotiable, but I think 4.5 works, like 8.
I mean, we negotiated. I thought we was going to do 2.5 or 2.5 post-ups a game. The half one is like I throw you the ball in the post and you just throw it right back out to me.
On paper, the Nets should be right in the mix for being a contender.
But this is all dependent on Kevin and Kyrie being healthy.
Steve Nash news hit the media like a bombshell kind of out of nowhere.
How did you hear, Spence?
Well, it just Shams break news, and you kind of just, it's law once they say it.
It's been something that I've thought about in the back of my mind and gained momentum with that thought that it's time for me to step out and take a challenge.
He definitely brings attributes and traits that I think are unique to this situation.
I can't help but compare Steve Nash to Steve Kerr, another guy who came in without coaching experience, although I guess Steve Nash was probably a little better player.
Kevin Durant returning to action last night. Man, this was so great. First time since tearing his Achilles in Game 5 of the 2019 Finals.
It will take him a while to truly feel back in his own body. He's on a new team with a new coach, and that will also be an adjustment.
I think it's realistic to think 90% of his old self, maybe better as the season goes on. And that's an all-NBA player. I mean, that's how good Kevin Durant is.
And he's ready to address the NBA like the numbers on the house.
We now welcome in NBA reporter Malika Andrews. Welcome, my friend. You will be covering the Nets this season for ESPN. And Malika, you heard the cliffhanger heading into this season, the long-awaited debut of Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving on the court together. You just heard Zach Lowe say 90%. What are your expectations for year one of the KD and Kyrie show?
I mean, they're high because this organization's expectations of themselves are high, Rachel. We hear these guys talk about, well, we don't want to put too much pressure on ourselves. Well, we don't want to say we're all coming back and we're out here to win it and take over the East. But at the same time, when I talk to folks around that team, they say they know. They know what they're going for. They know that not making an Eastern Conference Finals appearance, as high as those standards may be, that is already what's expected of them, and it's what they're expecting of themselves. So, yeah, I expect that of them.
So my thing is everybody has expectations for this team. I think when you really break it down, if you were to compare it to Clippers, you have all of this new talent coming together, and they have all of the ability. They have a great bench. They have a great staff. I actually love the staff that Steve Kerr has brought in, right? He's brought in other players. Steve Nash. He's brought in other players. He brought in D'Antoni. So he's got a great staff there to help him navigate the first year coaching. But I think this is kind of like the Clippers, where it's like they need to develop their chemistry, and it's not like championship or bust. I think the Clippers put too much pressure on themselves, and I think when they failed, that pressure fell on them too. Right. So I think the Nets are just going to take it easy. I don't think they have to win a championship for this year to be successful.
Well, when you add arguably the best player in the league to your roster, it's always going to be championship or bust. Now, if Kevin Durant can play at an MVP level, top 5, top 3, then this team has a chance to get to the finals. These are the expectations that come with a superstar like Kevin Durant. And then you have Kyrie Irving in his own right. He's a superstar who's won a championship. That's always how it's going to be. LeBron goes somewhere, KD goes somewhere. Expectations are championship.
Well, speaking of Kyrie, all eyes are going to be on him tonight because it's just preseason, but it's his first game back in Boston. Remember, he didn't play when the Nets visited there last year. So, Malika, is there any bad blood left on the Celtics side after Kyrie's free agency departure a couple seasons ago?
Well, when you ask them, they're going to say no, and they've done pretty well in their own right as Kyrie has departed, right? It's not like they've fallen off a cliff. So I think the Celtics are happy with where they're at. Brad Stevens has said repeatedly that he's happy with the way, things ended with Kyrie, with him moving on. I think it's Celtics fans, right, that are still kind of hanging on to that a little bit, and potentially rightfully so, right? Kyrie Irving sat in front of them and said that he intended to re-sign, and then that didn't happen. That's the business of basketball. but I was at that game in Boston last year, Rach, when Kyrie Irving did not play. And when I walked around the outside of TD Garden, there were literally posters of his face with the word coward printed over it. So I don't think this game tonight, even though it is just the preseason, is going to carry the same weight that it would have had there been fans in the building. I truly believe that if there were those folks there, they would let Kyrie know how they feel about not having him on the team anymore, and then about having him not have played last season. He was injured. He was dealing with that shoulder injury. But to the fans, that still stings a little bit. And there's a reason why this game is on Christmas Day, is also Boston Nets. It's because the league knows there's a little something there.
I don't know, Paul. Do Celtics fans have long memories?
We hold grudges. We definitely hold grudges. And he would have got it. He would have got lit up if the fans were out there. And listen, this is going to continue every year until his career is over. Every time he comes to the Garden, if there's fans in there.
Paul still doesn't like me for the first 2 years of my career. What we did to Boston.
That's just good taste.
I was going to say, I don't think it's just because of that he doesn't like you, Richard.
That's what I'm going to say.
Let's get to the plot twist for the Nets this offseason. The rumors of James Harden coming to Brooklyn to join KD and Kyrie. So, Richard, how do you think those rumors impact the Nets heading into the regular season, especially the guys on the roster who know if James Harden did come there, they would probably be the ones shipped out?
Well, I had a conversation via the Nets with Sean Marks, and Sean Marks was saying, like, hey, I've had open conversations with all of our players. So they know if they need to sit down, and it's like, look, there's certain times where you can tell players that, look, I've had no conversation about this. They understand that James Harden is one of the most popular players and one of the best players in the league. So, like, these guys know, like Spencer Dinwiddie, if he's sitting in an office, he's like, yeah, like if James Harden is going to come here, like I get it, like I understand, but it all is about conversation. And I think the Nets have had a great conversation with their players to let them know, like, hey, right now, this is our team and this is what we're moving forward with. I don't think that there's that much stress because players know about kind of the lifestyle that we've signed up for.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think that they think they can win a championship with the roster on hand right now without James Harden. Yeah. Yes, you add a James Harden. It does enhance your chances to win. But look, like I said, KD. You got KD, that's champion. Kyrie, underrated players in my eyes in the league. A guy who can carry an offense. Dinwiddie, they got pieces here.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm not messing with this because think about this.
Joe Harris.
When you get a veteran like James Harden, you can kind of bump heads. KD and Kyrie, these guys are going to fall in line. They're going to play the role they asked you to play, and they're going to play it to the best of their ability because they respect these guys. And that's what you need in trying to build a championship team.
Well, and day in and day out, I do not expect this to be be a distraction for the Nets. We've asked different players, from Kyrie to Kevin Durant to Karis LeVert to Spencer Dinwiddie to Jared Allen. The latter three, their names have all been involved in potential packages if that were to come to fruition. And all of them have said, look, James Harden is not in our practice today. He is not distracting us. In fact, maybe look at the Rockets and see what's happening over there. That may be more of a distraction for his teammates right now. And like Richard said, I hate to echo Richard, but Sean Marks does have that open door policy. I know, it's really hard for me, but Sean Marks does have that open door policy, and he says that that's how he's working through this with his players. And it does seem like the Nets have, from everyone that I've talked to within that organization, there is no trade for James Harden that is imminent. They had some discussions. They were brief. They did not go very far. And Sean Marks being honest with his players and saying, hey, that's what happened, and now we're moving forward. We like this group. They have to believe what's done is done. And right now, what's being done is not James Harden imminently coming to the Brooklyn Nets.
All right, well, let's look at the games that Nets fans should binge watch this season. Brooklyn hosting Golden State on opening night. They face Boston on Christmas, as we were just discussing. And they see the Bucks for the first time on January 18th. Malika, I know you will be covering a bunch of those games, either in person or remotely, depending on how the NBA opens up here over the coming months. But we appreciate your time, and we will come back to you often about the KD and Kyrie show. Coming up on this show, guys, four-time NBA All-Star Shawn Marion joins the jump. Paul and I are going to ask the Matrix about his former teammate turned coach Steve Nash. We've got some great "What Were You Thinkings?" and we're kicking Richard off the set.
Yeah,
so
we don't
really,
need you, Richard, for this one.
It's a segment you should watch because you promised it's Richard free.
Yeah, you're welcome.